That graphic looks like it's correct. A druid ban here, Sottle. Enjoy explaining that one. Take it away. What's going on?
Help! I have no idea what's happening.
Do your job. Seriously, do it.
So hang on. Viper has Quest, right? Quest, Warlock, Rogue, and Warrior. I'm pretty sure it's just a regular Warrior, right? As opposed to Baby Warrior?
Yes, that's correct. And Kolento's Druid is the standard Druid, not the big dragon package. It's more of a spell Druid that we are used to.
So I guess I can somewhat get behind it. I do think Druid is a difficult matchup for the Quest Warlock. It's at least one of the ones where I felt like I was personally struggling myself. Although, again, I'm still very much in the stages of learning the deck, so I don't really have hard and fast opinions on it just yet, but it does seem like they can just keep making too many boards for you to deal with in a lot of positions, and it's hard to get the reliable situation against any of the healing that they have as well, unless you hit the absolute nuts and can do it all in one turn. And then there's also this weird floating idea that Druid beats Warrior that comes out from some players, which I'm not sure I'm on board with either. But there's also the factor that, like, Kolento doesn't actually have a Warrior of his own. So there's no, like, go-to ban. There's no gravitate ban. There is the Demon Hunter, but I think Viper's lineup is, A, comfortable against Demon Hunter, and I think Demon Hunter is underperforming in GM versus what some people might expect it to be doing. I think it's a very mid-tier deck in terms of win rate in GM overall. So, I mean, yes, I glance over. As Lorinda so succinctly put it in our Discord, Kolento has no good decks, so he's allowed to ban Druid. That's basically what seems to be going on here.
I will take a problem with that, of if Viper had Priest, he would definitely be banning Highlander Hunter, which is a good deck, Lorinda.
Yeah.
I will not have you say anything otherwise, but I do agree overall. I was just staring at the Mage and was wondering how much of a problem Mage gives either the Warlock or even potentially the Rogue. But yeah, I think I am on board here overall. And just want to point out here, as you can now see, as we're showing you the list, typical Viper fashion, just puts Alex Strauzer in his Rogue.
Nice!
I just expect these things now, honestly, Sol. It's not even a surprise to me anymore.
I think this is slightly less cool than the one-off Togwaggle scheme tech that we've been seeing from him previously, but I'm still on board with good old Viper spicing things up a bit for us.
I do think, although maybe less cool, more effective might be what I'm going for. Because, once again, if you're thinking about, say, the Priest matchup, does it give him some extra edge in that? Or just an extra plan? Actually build that pitiful board, and even if the Priest is doing well on health, Alex Strauzer go. And suddenly that's much more problem, right? So very interesting to see how that plays out. But it looks like it is going to be game number 1 of the Rogue going up against Kolento's Highlander Mage.
And it's been a while, I think, since we've seen a good old Highlander Mage game. Not sure we've seen one today on stream. If so, I've already repressed it and moved on. But here we are. And this matchup against Rogue in particular can get a little clowny. Not quite to the levels that we've seen Mage versus Priest reach in this tournament so far. But still, potential for a lot of late-game fireworks to go off if it gets that far.
Yeah, and as we kick off this game number 1 here, I just want to ask you, it's a bit of a weird question, honestly. But what have you been thinking of Kolento this season? It's obviously my first time casting Grandmasters. I obviously watched some last year, of course. But the fact that he's just not bringing arguably the best deck in the game, and yes, there is point of saying, well, everyone's expecting it, so it gets a ban. Great. And also, we've seen that it's proven to, even if it gets left up and targeted, it wins anyway. So just what do you think? Because Kolento, I think, week on week now, has brought very much his own lineup and his own style, and maybe ignored even to a certain extent what's going on in the general meta of Grandmasters.
Yeah, Kolento is just a riddle wrapped in a mystery, wrapped in an enigma. He is beyond our mere mortal comprehension. I think a lot of times, going back as far as, season 1 of last year with, myself and Admirable even, talking about various things, and Admirable would disagree with a lot of things he was doing. I would disagree with some of the things he was doing. But he would just win games of Hearthstone, and then we'd ask him about it in the interview, and he'd have, perfectly reasonable justifications for what's going on. Other players, even at points, called out and said that Kolento isn't demonstrating high-level matchup knowledge in some of the matchups that he should be. And Kolento just saying, I don't know, I'm freaking winning them. Like, what do you want me to do? Like, Kolento is just he marches to the beat of his own drum, and he is completely unflappable. He will always just do what he believes is the best thing to be doing, and he's had so much consistent success over such a long period of time in Hearthstone that it gets difficult to argue with after a certain point.
It is, isn't it? And it's one of the things I think me and Derek discussed a lot last year in the Asia Pacific region. Was for me, Staz was testing out certain maybe like non-meta decks, or bringing, for me at least, really different builds of Hunter, especially at the time. And I was like, well, this seems weird. I'm not sure how this is going to work. But he did win a lot of games of Hearthstone, and he did get the job done. So once again, it is a little bit of tough to argue with someone who continually wins. But I do hear that the players sound like they're about to be getting into the game here. Let's kick it off. Viper versus Kolento. Mage versus Rogue. Let's see how this one is out. Zephyrus still the go-to mulligan here for Mage, just going for that wild growth, do you think?
It does seem like it in most matchups still, yeah. I will confess I am not the most adept Highlander Mage player. I am, in fact, physically allergic to this deck.
Do you want me to reveal a secret to the audience?
Go on.
Put it this way. When we went to practice and I made Soto play Highlander...
Oh, yeah.
He literally had to play the part of the story to unlock Amazing Reno. That's how much Soto does not care for this deck.
Yep.
I had to wait. It was annoying. But yeah, it was quite funny though. But yeah, Soto not the biggest fan by any means. And honestly, I overall like the style outside of the shenanigans, I'll call them, that the deck can do. I think that's more just because I keep wanting it to be a freeze mage style list as opposed to anything else. You see now Viper has the option to just go for that Spy Mistress or the Pharaoh Cat. Benefit of Spy Mistress is versus Mage, it can often just sit on the board till whenever.
In the shadows.
And activate this Greyheart Sage next turn.
Exactly, he also has just coin into Greyheart if he wants to, or he can just attack with it, play his Skyvateer, and then just play his curve out that way with the Greyheart Sage if he really wants to. And also just use it to contest this Zephyrus, who is at least not just falling behind on board in the early game against Mage, which is the disaster scenario. Which I think might just end up being the line here.
Well, now there's just almost too many options.
So many options.
Outside of what? Pharaoh Cat? I think Viper could do any of the other things with this turn. Still be okay. He could even just Seal Fate. If he really wanted to. Just get that early Seal Fate target done with.
Cruel fate awaits you in the ashes.
Go for option. What I would deem option 1 though, just Greyheart Sage trade. Seems good. Get the 3/3 down, draw your cards, get rid of the Zephyrus, and continue on with your day. Sure.
So this curves into Pharaohcat Skyvateer, into Praise Galakron's Miscreant. Ooh. Opportunity to divert into the Temple Berserker here instead of the Skyvateer.
I think I like it. Viper isn't overly short of cards right now. He has a lot of generation as well with all the lucky generation he has and the ropes he has. Why not put a bit of a threat to Kolento to at least consider?
Right.
Does this just warrant a Flame Ward? How much value are you actually looking for Flame Ward against Rogue?
Yeah, it does look like a pretty solid Flame Ward turn to me. It's going to protect you from a good chunk of damage, it looks like, from what you can see right now.
Yeah, and I think most importantly as well, he can follow up with Bone Wraith Ping quite smoothly to kill off the rest of the Berserker next turn.
Yeah.
Whereas otherwise, if he had like a really strong 6 mana play or 5 mana play and no 4 mana play, it might be a little bit awkward to do that ping.
Interesting. He's going to go with the Ice Barrier instead and try and milk this Flame Ward a little bit more. It does seem like this is setting up to get hit by, like, say, this 3/3 multiple times, which suddenly is pushing you into the range of like 15 health, where Rogue can actually be threatening to end the game later. We'll see how it pans out.
you ever considering that this Berserker is going to trade into the
many
Solarian anyway?
options.
If Viper thinks it's Flame Ward, he could go trade, then go with the 3.
Sure. Yeah, no, that's fair.
You can see he's going to get the news, and it's not. He does have the invoke there with the Praise Galakron. Get this trade off and protect the Reborn effect if it was Flame Ward.
Mm-hmm.
Choose soon.
It's like a miscreant turn to me. Draw the overconfident orc though, which does pair nicely with his hand, gives him a lot more flexibility. The Bone Wraith ping was only really looking promising if you set up the Flame Ward on the previous turn. So Kolento was a little bit lacking in positive plays this turn. Overconfident orc at least give him something to do.
Yeah, and that's the only weird thing for me is if I feel like Flame Ward's getting worse as time goes on. And don't get me wrong, there are late game scenarios where Flame Ward gets the job done, of course. But just for right now, I feel like that turn worked so well that it felt weird that Kolento didn't go for it. But he's just going to still do a Bone Wraith ping, just in a slightly different fashion than we planned. But now I think Flame Ward's just going to get progressively more awkward to fit into the turn.
Combinations of Seal Fate, Praise Galakron, Rush Lackey can chew through this pretty comfortably.
Wonder.
Viper can even end that turn with a choice Witchy Lackey on either Greyheart Sage or the Evil Miscreant, most likely.
So
Yeah, it's definitely one of those rogue hands where it's just a load of rubbish, but when piled together, make something that is not quite rubbish, like that. Sometimes, I guess.
Okay.
Yep, you press that hero power now, Viper. That is correct. Oh wow.
Sure. Sign me up.
Yeah, and hunter cards just fun.
I do like Dragon Bait. It's a very powerful feeling card. You do get that endorphin hit every time you play.
I'm still not decided what I like more though. Dragonbane on an empty board and it goes face and you're like, oh yeah, just take tons of damage. Or Dragonbane against a full board and it snipes the perfect target in the game. I'm not quite sure which one's still gonna edge it for me there.
I don't know what the second one feels like, Raven. That's never happened to me.
Cool enough for you to pull it off.
What to do?
Pull off the big plays.
What to do?
Finally, Dragon Activator for the Malagos in hand for Kolento. Does give him a little bit more option, but again, this board does just seem to be getting progressively bigger and bigger.
Yeah, none of it really fits, does it? Because it's Malagos then with 2 mana left over, which doesn't really give you that many options, especially because you don't have any 2 mana plays in hand. But then if you double 3s, then just kind of does nothing, honestly. Maybe he has to Malagos and try and get the intellect for next turn, I guess.
Time runs out on me.
Either way, nothing's really adding up here for Kolento, and I do wonder if it can be traced back to just not going Flame Ward using Solari instead. Oh, he did get the intellect. But does he need to polymorph the
Does he need to poly the Dragonbane, yeah. Yeah, seems about right. It's not pretty, but it does seem kind of necessary. Viper only at 1 Invoke right now. He does have the Kronks in hand to draw his Galakron, and he does have 2 more cheap Invokes in hand with the Seal Fate and Praise Galakron number 2.
And a really good target for Seal Fate as well, because there's Malagos has so much health.
Yeah, it's very irritating to deal with otherwise. Can use Spy Mistress and Rush to be able to plow through the rest of it pretty efficiently.
So many options.
Everything else connects face, apart from the sheep.
Yep, definitely like the everything else connecting face part of the plan.
Choose soon.
Viper never one to rush a decision, though.
So many options.
Return is nigh.
I guess this is one of those crunks where it gets you the awkward thing done in the least awkward turn, where he's already very ahead. Kolento's not doing much. Going into turn 8, well, if he Power of Creations or anything onto this board, then the crunks is just sat there ready to help out. So maybe that was just the gap he wanted, to just be able to get that Galakron in hand. And then he can do all the tricky things next turn.
I wonder. I wonder.
And now does it have to be an overturn here from Kolento just to stem the tide, I guess? Viper can only play one more minion on the board if he novas.
It does, based on his hand, yeah, but I'm a little curious about the just, one big minion being played from Viper here, because it feels like he leaves himself a bit vulnerable to just, like, a deep freeze tempo swing, which is, not something that was otherwise available when his board was so small and wide.
Would a deep freeze be that much of a swing, though? It's his whole turn, so he can't do anything else. It would obviously be good to lock out the front. But Viper still has a lot of stuff in hand to work with and a lot of minions that can clean up the water element.
Well, there'd be 12 health of water elementals. The 3/2 would die to the Malagos. Your Kronks couldn't attack, and you'd have 4 power in play.
But there's Seal Fate.
Do we think that qualifies as a swing turn?
Yeah, but what I mean is it's not like Viper had no answer to arguably like swing back, right? Or at least remove them.
Sure.
Just because of Seal Fate, Eviscerate, Rush Lackey as well with that one slot. If the Sage dies, then it means there's 2 spaces on board. And you could trade away anyway. All the Rush Lackey.
All the Rush Lackeys indeed. But while we were quibbling, the Flame Ward has come down. Pretty heavily telegraphed Flame Ward at that with the way the attacks have gone down. What did I say?
Damage, though.
If Kolento didn't Flame Ward on turn 3, he'd be at 15 by the time that Greyheart Sage died.
Did you actually say that?
Yes, I did!
That's a very specific quote you just made up.
No! I
feel like that's like me now saying, well, if Kolento doesn't kill the Berserker, Viper's going to have a 3-1 Berserker on the board, and Kolento's going to be on 13 health as he goes into 9 mana. That's how specific that was. So maybe if you were right, then good job. Good work.
Check the VOD. Those words came out of my mouth.
What a day!
Prestige Raider, though, finally something a little bit more playable for Kolento. Would have stopped some of this aggression, but is it too late?
I will act as your scapegoat.
Yeah, I mean,
a lot of invokes all in hand at least.
Right, I mean, that was the general point of what I said when I said it, is that it just feels like too much chip damage will come in from just that one small board if Kolento didn't deal with it early, and then with, Mage that low, all of the threat of just, an invoked Galakron's Claw coming through and just dealing damage, the Eviscerate coming through and dealing damage, Kobold Lackeys coming through and dealing damage, like all of that stuff becomes very active. And stay above 20 as the Mage. Normally, your late game stuff can carry you through, but the Mage can get, if the Rogue can get this aggressive, it's just a whole different ballgame.
Yeah, and all these Rush Lackeys going to help this Shield of Galakron push through here. It's normally awkward health of the Rusty Raider. And they're also just extra damage now. Right?
Double time! Hey!
Viper has fully invoked Galakron to Vis next turn to follow all of this up as well.
And Kolento cannot Alexstrasza or he will be dead.
The fate of the world hangs in the balance.
to be a second Frost Nova, I think. It's not going to be good enough. But it's the only option he's got. That's going to be game one. Going over to Viper. He has the damage with the Claw and the Abyss.
Worked out pretty well overall there, and Kolento just never really got going. We didn't see any of the powerful Mage sort of big plays we expect. No Dragon Caster, no Power of Creation, no Yogg. But yeah, Kolento kind of just got steamrolled. And really, we talked about it a lot, but the big point for me was the Flame Ward into Bone Wraith Ping just would have stopped X amount of damage coming through for Kolento this game. And, oh, sorry, my fault. I'll fix that. I forgot to do that. I'll turn the lighting on. Just have a dark room. Yeah, so I do just wonder how much damage the Flame Ward would have saved him there. And the Flame Ward he got off, although, yes, killed more minions, took so much extra damage, and the Kronks hit him for 6 even through the Flame Ward, because that's just how that card works. You do just have to think, maybe that would have changed the outcome, because Solarian really is a card you can play almost any turn of the game, right? Sometimes you get bonus from the spell damage you get, but other than that, it's more just play it so it dies, so you have the prime in the deck. And I didn't really see the big payoff for it in the early game.
That's not even the issue, right? Because he could have played it either way. It was just the choice of secret that he played. He played Ice Barrier instead of Flame Ward to gain the extra health. So you could still, if you wanted, just play Solarian Prime there to get it in your deck and just drop the Flame Ward.
That's true, yeah.
Like in Kolento's defense, you know, when I made that prediction that he'd be at 15 by the time that board got dealt with, you know, it's not like I foresaw that a Dragonbane was going to come out off an Evolve Lackey and be the absolute nuts in the scenario, which is what it actually took to get Kolento down that low at that point. So maybe he had more to play with, but it felt like to me that that was a board that needed to be dealt with, or else it was just going to represent too much persistent chip damage over the course of the game.
Yep, and that was only game number 1, though. Viper taking the win with that Rogue, and we're going to go to a quick break to get game 2 set up. And maybe after the break, I will have my lights actually on in time, so apologies about that. But we're going to go to a break. We'll be right back with some more Hearthstone Grandmasters.
Useless fact? Nope.
쓸데없는 정보?
생각이 안 나네.
A useless fact I know is a day is 18,600 seconds.
제 친구가 요리 유튜브를 시작했는데 구독자가 지금 700명 넘었어요.
아, 나 근데 이런 거 잘하는데. 근데 최근에 아는 거 있어요. 밥에다가 그 귤이랑 김이랑 해서 먹으면 연어 초밥 맛이 난대요.
귤이랑 김이랑 싸가지고 간장에 찍어 먹으면 약간 연어 초밥 난다고 해요. 믿을 만한 소스가 알려졌어요.
We are back and ready to continue our series between Viper and Kolento, our last match of the day and of the weekend over here in the Grandmasters European region here. And Viper currently leading 1-0 here with the Rogue and having Warrior and Warlock left over against Kolento's strange lineup, honestly, with Demon Hunter, Mage, Hunter, and Druid. But with that Druid banned out, this maybe looks like a little bit more of a standard build that Viper has to go up against.
Yeah, Viper on his side has the Quest Warlock, which right on time looks like he's going to be the deck that he is going to queue up. His particular build of it is playing that one Soulfire Raven that we were talking about previously. As I said, some players do just choose to use the one because the discard effect is very punishing. He's also playing a Sky General Crag in his deck, which is a pretty unique inclusion that I haven't seen around too many other places. And also that single copy of Kartut Defender, which you were saying you're currently running in your list.
Yeah, I was giving it a try just because you can't deny the sheer volume of heal you get, and a lot of the games you just need health and time. I do like, though, the look of this one unstable Fellbolt as just one extra piece of spot removal there. Because one of the things we were discussing a little bit earlier was that with this deck, at least in my limited experience with it so far, there are a lot of cards that clog up your hand. Like even Dark Skies, right? You might not want to Dark Skies a small board, even though it does help you out. But just having just a couple of cards that are more throwaway cards lets you life tap more, lets you just rip that Sense Demons whenever because you've got the room for it. These Quest Explorers as well do replace themselves. So one of those issues with just so many cards that replace themselves, I think the initial builds of this list might have had too many of them and it causes too many issues. But let's go into the game. It's going up against Mage. I'm not sure. How do you feel about this matchup? Have you played against it too much here?
I have played against it exactly twice, which I don't think is too much information to be able to draw a definitive conclusion from, but I am 2-0 against it, for all that's worth.
Yeah, I've run into it a couple of times, and I think, honestly, it got me in a couple of rough spots, but nothing you can't deal with as the Warlock. Right. And also, one of the big plays from Mage is, say, Reno. So, well, you don't really play minions for them to Reno that often, so that's a bit of a drawback. And the random spells as well from Reno and Mox can often put more of the Mage into trouble as opposed to the Warlock, I found.
So I'm always learning with this deck, and this is a curve that I'm interested in, the Quest into Questing Explorer curve on coin. Because I talked about this yesterday, I think. You can't max out the card draw. Like, you can't go tap, tap, questing, tap, because you end up earning a card when you're on coin. So I was curious as to whether you do live tap. Because in a lot of slower matchups, you don't want to draw off the Questing Explorer on 2, or at least I felt this way, because you actually maximize card draw by life tapping that turn, and then you still have a Questing Explorer in your hand for another card draw that you can fit in later. But it's just a little bit awkward on coin because of hand size issues. So yeah, Viper does go ahead and just drop it on 2.
And that's where it will, at least for me, always keep changing, because that is still reflective of your hand as well. Because you might not want to maximize card draw, because if the card draw you're getting is all the expensive dragons and no plot twist, then you're just maximizing your hand being full and you're having to just like randomly dump more cards out, which for Viper will probably happen less often because he's running Sky General Crag, he's running this unstable Fellbolt, which is kind of just a throwaway card a lot of the time, and he's running these some of the earlier game.
Snap attack into the secret. I was going to approach the conversation of whether you're actually ever going to do 8 damage with minions this game to be able to proc through that, especially with Viper's list, which I think is a little bit threat lighter because of the lack of the Abyssal Summoners, I believe, in his list. But it seems pretty reasonable that you'll get enough damage through with minions at some point to make up for that. Plus the opportunity that it's just Flame Ward, right?
Yeah, exactly. Just overall, it's fine. Suddenly, I think the downside... or the upside of it being Flame Ward means you get to actually push 2 damage, which is even 2 damage is a pretty big deal, because Mage outside of Reno doesn't really heal, does it? So you get that point of any damage you do, you can start just adding up potential lethals, so you can start going, oh, what if I just Nether Breath face this turn? And then, can I just go Malygos, Soulfire for me?
That tap made this turn more difficult. The fact that he hit the Questing Explorer number 2. So obviously, if you have those cards in your deck, you really want to get them played before you complete the quest. I was thinking this was just going to be a tap plot twist turn, but then you get very close to just completing your quest straight up, and you just still have a questing explorer in your deck, which is a potentially really dead draw at this point. Obviously, if he plays the questing explorer, he's going to have to like coin out unstable Fellbolt or something like that.
Yeah, I like this though because he can just coil, right?
Sure. Yeah. Okay, that works too.
I like this.
Okay.
One thing I've learned again in my small chunk of games of this deck is sometimes don't try and be over fancy because it can get you, or at least gets me in trouble. And by that I mean, even then, if you wanted to play the quest in, I think even just throwing away a coin and just passing would have been more worthwhile. Because when I played a little bit risky with the card draw, it's often just not paid off. And I think there is a limit, although there are a lot of cute things you can do with a deck like this, there is a limit of should you do the cute things with the deck.
Sure.
Mainly because I think it's consistent enough to just get there, on its own. I don't think it requires a ton of work on the player's end.
So now is this just a questing plot twist turn? He does still have that Sky General Crag though, which kind of has the same problem as the questing explorer in terms of wanting to get usage out of the card before your quest gets activated.
It doesn't matter.
Oh, it's if you played a quest this game.
If you've had a quest this game done,
spot on.
and it's active. So luckily, that is one of the more shuffleable cards. Word I'm pretty sure I just made up. I think as well in this matchup we will see more often Dark Skies being used to kill singular minions, as opposed to big board sweeps you see in some other matchups, mainly because a lot of mage threats are relatively high health.
Mm-hmm.
And also I don't... Okay, you'll probably understand what I mean by this, but I don't think Viper's in a huge need to plot twist super soon. He's getting there, but because of that Questing Explorer, because of Sky General, I think he wants to play these cards before he plot twists, right? So
yeah,
and because he's not being pressured on health, he doesn't have to like twist to try and draw the heal or taunt.
Right, the first turn where he kind of has to plot twist or he starts losing value is next turn. Because next turn he'll draw up to 10 on his quest naturally, and then plot twist will still draw 9 if he plays it with a full hand on the following turn. So if he waits any longer than that, he's going to potentially miss one turn of potential activated quest hero power.
And that's something I did to myself a lot. I found myself actually tapping to 10 cards for the 10th being 0 and burning a card. Just saying I'll take the 0 card now as opposed to potentially afterwards. Didn't always work out. He could just Sky General. Plot twist first. This does obviously the less cards he plays now in plot twist, the more he shuffles and draws back. But I don't think he particularly wants to draw Sky General late.
Doesn't he? I mean, it is a relevant removal, right? Or a relevant stalling, I mean. Not removal, that's not the word I'm looking for.
It's kind of removal. It creates the rush minion, right?
Yeah.
Almost out of time.
Yeah, I don't know. I think, to get plot twist going a bit more or get the quest going, it's better to just have a higher chance of really drawing into your big endgame card.
Yeah. As I was saying before, though, if he doesn't, get the full plot twist there and complete the quest, the fact that he could have done that turn means that if he doesn't do it that turn, he's down 1 0 mana card over the course of the whole game.
Basically, the deck's tricky. It's why we're talking about it a lot more than we are Kolentos.
Yeah. But you can see that was a lot of sacrifices from Viper just to be able to get a 0-cost card into his hand that turn. But his deck is stacked up pretty nicely for it, honestly.
And basically what you want to look at generally is low damage cards. So Nether Breath, Soulfire, and no dragons, or not the big dragon.
Right.
Are your main target.
Right. And yeah, we've talked about it a lot, but the need to hit a zero-cost Alexstrasza or a zero-cost Malagos is greatly overstated with this deck. Like, you can just hit zero-cost burn, and then you're just pretty much in the same spot. And even if you don't, Viper, I believe, did he redraw the coin and play it? Or is it still in his deck? I think he redrew it and play it that turn. Right, okay. I was going to say, if you're in that situation where you shuffle a coin into your deck, you actually don't need anything. You can just quite often just get an Alexstrasza down for 9, and the next turn you have Malagos and 2 burn spells with the coin to be able to end the game.
Also as well, currently Zephyrus is active. It's pretty cool. Pretty early.
Nice.
Yeah, but I like this as well because this draws demons out of his deck to make this tap a higher chance at drawing burn. There we go. Or a dragon. So I really like this ordering as well. Just use the Sense Demons first because Viper doesn't need a zero-cost demon. Especially in this matchup. Just doesn't need it.
Right.
But now, I mean, the damage is already starting to stack up.
He's going to Zephyrus Earthshock here? Looks that way from how he's going at it, yep. Okay. I'm into it. Probably take the bump with the questing as well. There's a big old resource used up in the Zephyrus, though. Did find some good usage out of that card for Brawls or Twisting Nethers in my limited experience in this matchup, because the minions do get too big for you to be Dark Skysing away very quickly.
Yeah, and he's only running 1 Twisting Nether, although he does have the Calidan, the Breaker, in the deck, so that often does get value versus Mage. It's either insta-kill one thing or wipe the whole board.
And he does have his other plot twist available. His hand right now isn't too premium to be plot twisting back into his deck. So from next turn onwards, he has Twisting Nether active, and he also has the panic button of plot twist to try and draw Caladan.
Time runs out on me. What to do? What to do?
To note as well, this Moag is live for both players, so Kolento does get that extra buff on the spells, but doesn't really have the spells to make use. We need the double rail cost. I do like the Reno though, just put a minion on the board, clear this up. The slow job dealing damage to Warlock. Is that Caladan?
It is Caladan.
Not bad, you can whip a tap in it as well. This is where it gets tricky.
Starting the turn at 10 though, so if he Caladan taps, he will have to play a zero-cost card to not overdraw.
Which could, to a certain extent, be the Nether Breath.
It could. That is a real feels bad though.
It is, but it is. It does something,
no,
right?
It just is.
Well, my point is, it kind of kills the armor, which Alex doesn't deal with anyway. Obviously, you'd be liking to use it with Malagos, don't get me wrong. I'm not ignoring that factor, but because the Alex is still fully functional, even after using the Nether Breath, it's not horrible. And this is where the deck gets hard, because I think Viper and most players feel you do have to use this life tap every single turn.
Right.
But if so, how do you make that work? Do you sacrifice? Do you not?
Yeah, that's a lot of the real engineering with the deck, is like, which of these cards in my hand can I afford to throw away right now so I can fit in an additional life tap this turn?
And we see Viper, the respect for the 0 mana burn in hand, just playing out this Moag Artificer, not only not getting some damage in, which is fine, obviously, but just not doing the life tap, most importantly.
Right. I don't think you have to worry too much about this armor, just, broaching that issue, because you do still have your Crazed Netherwings remaining, which I think you can just rely on those to do this. 5 points of armor, that's 6 damage that you'll get from 2 Crazed Netherwings potentially.
Yep, it was definitely more of a turn your frown upside down kind of comment than a positive reason for doing it.
But healing now might become a little bit of a worry for Viper. He does have the extra safety blanket of that Kartut Defender, which I haven't played with at all, so not really familiar with how it affects things, but I believe this is both Moags now being committed to the board from Viper, so he's not going to be able to use Moag Nether Breath for a big swing after, if Alexstrasza comes down from Kolento.
He does, though, have the Kartut and the plot twist with double Broodmothers in hand.
Yes.
And again, if you're not used to plot twist, you can draw cards you just shuffled in. So you can, there's a world where Viper could redraw this exact hand, basically. So the plot twist shuffles the deck in first, then draws X cards. It doesn't do them at the same time.
Boom!
There we go.
My brood will survive.
I did actually wonder there whether it was Alexstrasza and then plot twist. I mean, the Squall's not bad. If it's kind of like Malagos for 0-man.
It is. Did you just sit on both of them? Yeah, the Squall Hunter is pretty interesting.
So many
I
possibilities.
think you could sit on both. Play this Broodmother now, so the board's still threatening. There's a lot of health on there.
It gives him, 7, 14, 17 from hand with just Nether Breath, Rain of Fire alongside this. He can play the Craze Netherwing alongside that as well for 20.
I think what he's really considering here is this fully depends on whether he wants to plot twist soon or not.
He also has 10 cards right now. So, what do you play?
The Deathwing! You might have to play it. Okay, going for the Rain. This is
That
why
does
the deck's
cut
super
down.
hard!
Yeah. That does really cut down on that burst that I was just counting together, though, previously. He's still kind of there. He still has a Soulfire remaining in his deck as well at this point. But yeah, I think just with this Squall Hunter now, even without the Malagos, if he just gets a safe turn to Alexstrasza, his opponent, and Kolento doesn't gain additional armor from Amazing Reno, then I think Viper might just have it covered.
Yeah, he's looking good, isn't it? Turns like that are the turns that I just struggle with this deck so far. Like, what are you okay sacrificing? And the problem is, there's not one answer to that question. It completely depends every single game.
Right. You see there, the downside of committing that Rain of Fire was just he left himself vulnerable to just a full clear with just Siamat because of the 1 damage he does to his own Alexstrasza.
Soulfire though.
There is that Soulfire now. Viper can get this Deathwing Mad Aspect out of hand, make room.
He'll drop the any of his other minions as well. This time.
Crazy Netherwing. Okay, sure.
How much damage is actually in hand?
3, 6, 13, 20. No way. No, I'm counting too much. 6. This is
Ready for
18.
6
22.
damage each. 12, 15, 18, 24, I count.
Oh, okay. What have I counted wrong?
Oh no, I might have counted it wrong. I messed it up twice.
Oh no, 24. Yep. I didn't put the spell damage on the Soulfire.
Okay.
Oh. Maybe luckily for Kolento that cannot pass.
Game?
Cross Nova.
Sure.
Time runs out on me.
You're like, huh, you win this round.
Yeah. I guess Kolento can also just put enough damage into the Deathwing that, well, the 1 attack would still go off though, so it wouldn't actually change anything. So I guess he just has to full clear it off. Fine. He keeps himself a 1-1. Feels good, man.
Actually a weird problem, isn't it?
Ooh!
Yep. That Libram of Wisdom is actually not a card Viper wants, and it's a card he's going to forever have in his hand. A lot of the time.
Yep.
Burning the Alex, that was literally the card Viper needed. I'd argue he needed the Alex way more than Malagos right now.
Right.
Oh wait, what if... Ah, no, it's too risky, isn't it? I was wondering what if he like Librams the Doomsayer, taps, and then leaves himself on 10 so he burns the Libram when it goes back.
So many possibilities.
It does still just involve leaving yourself on 10 cards,
Hey,
though, which means
exactly.
you also ban the last card. Yeah. Okay.
that's the goose.
Okay. He's goosing.
Lethal?
So each spell is +7, so it's 11, 22, 33?
Yeah, like, he can play all of the damage cards, right?
So many
Yeah.
5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, he can play all of his damage cards. Wait, he shouldn't be playing things, should he?
My brood will survive.
Just dumps it on there, because why not? Sure. Wait, so wasn't this just lethal this time?
Yeah, well, what I'm wondering is what's he want to call?
Hmm.
It's gonna make this lethal. I thought he's drawn all his damage. He's used Zephyrus. He's got Sky General Crag, which doesn't do anything.
He doesn't need to use the Netherwing for the lethal, so his Nether Breaths are still active. Yeah, I think he's just I'm pretty sure, right? Each
Yeah.
spell is +7.
He's counting it now. He's counting it.
So it's 11 from Nether Breath, 22 from the other Nether Breath, 33 from the Soulfire. You don't need to use the Netherwing, so that's your dragon in hand to activate the Nether Breaths. Soulfire is the last card you play, so there's no discard.
Right. Because I was literally looking. I'm like, I'm not even sure what Viper wants to draw. So
Yeah.
I think he did just not count it properly.
Yeah.
That burn of the Alexstrasza might have thrown him off a little bit.
Time runs out on me.
It's where, honestly, I think if I was in this position or playing this deck, I'd have pen and paper. Yeah, I know you can do it on a PC, by the way, but still, you're playing on your PC. I'd have pen and paper and then write the damage of each spell down once. And then just write, okay, add this up, done.
Does he have a spell he can throw away for the counter spell?
Yeah,
Yeah, he
Libram.
does, right? Yeah. Okay,
And
so
because
he's
his
chilling.
Malagos is 0, he has all the
Hello?
mana in the world.
Kolento's going to be so confused as to why he wasn't just dead last turn.
There's one. There's two. And the final 9 for the Soulfire. That gets the job done. Quest Warlock, although it looked a little bit dicey in that one. Partly down to Viper having a little slip there. But he's going to take the victory, and that's without the Alexstrasza. Of course, he got the Squall, which helped. But with the Alexstrasza, you can see how easily they would have just been obliterated in that game, and that's the general game plan there of the Quest Warlock. But that leaves Viper with just his warrior left. And do I even have to say it anymore, Sol? If you've just got warrior left, is that just a victory right now?
No. You're coming at this completely backwards. The inevitable victory was that one that we've just had. Quest Warlock wins literally every game in GM. That is just a fact. It wins every single game it has played in GM up until this point. So, like, that was a given up until then. But genuinely, I do, like, have a lot of growing respect for the deck because people focus a lot on the failure rate there. But let's say even Viper, after his first plot twist, had a lot of his big greedy cards in hand. He had Dragon Queen, Alexstrasza, Malagos in his hand. You still have a second plot twist at that point, right? Like, he still had plot twist to spare. So even if he hadn't drawn his like timely removal, if he didn't have Nether or Caladan the Breaker in his hand and the board was developing, he can panic plot twist and find himself that Nether or that Caladan the Breaker on the spot. Same thing if you just have the big dragons in your hand. You can just throw it all back in there. Any slow matchup that gives you time to just get through your deck very efficiently with only one plot twist is always really suffering at the end of the game because you have so many options, because you more or less have access to every card in your deck on any given turn because your deck's got so small that plot twist shows you so many cards it becomes increasingly unlikely that you don't get that one card you're looking for.
Yeah, and on the sheer fact that there was just so much to talk about every single turn there just shows how fun and maybe even complicated the deck's going to be even going forward as more players dive on it. But yep, we are going to move on to our game number 3 of the day, and it's going to be the Hunter for Kolento versus Viper's Pain Warrior. And just a quick breakdown there as we did glance at it. It's the Highlander Hunter for Kolento. He did bring Face Hunter last week, I think the week before. But yep, going to be Highlander this time. Much, I think, overall better deck, especially with Scavengers.
And it's starting to become real crunch time for Kolento at this point. Because if he loses this game against one of the best decks in GM, the second best deck in GM outside of Quest Warlock, he loses this one game of Hearthstone, he is at a 2-3 record, and some of his remaining matchups are against the players who are chasing him. He plays Zim next week, who is the one player who will be below him outright on match wins if he loses this series, with Zim having the opportunity to pick up a win over him, which not only then pulls him up to the same number of match wins, but also gives him the superior tiebreaker 1 on the head-to-head record against Kolento, which can make all the difference if it comes down to direct two-way ties.
Yeah, it's going to be really rough, isn't it? And that's only, I imagine, one of the crazy stories that we're going to have going into next weekend. But it is the one that is relevant right now. Yeah, as I was saying, I'm not personally a huge fan of the Phase Stalker secret package. I think there are so many good cards you can put in Highlander Hunter right now. Are very meta-relevant also. That running just, a freezing trap, a snake trap, and the Phase Stalker, which a lot of the time you can't get away with playing on 2 if you want it to pull secrets anyway. It just doesn't feel good enough to me.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm a pretty consistent guy when it comes to this. I just think secrets suck. I don't particularly like secrets in Rogue. I don't particularly like secrets in Hunter.
They suck right now for Hunter. Hunter has had some insane secrets, but right now they do suck.
That is true. But again, we've still, even in the world where, secrets are very powerful, we've still generally seen the dynamic that secrets overperform on ladder and underperform in competitive play.
And also, if you think most recently, well, Highlander Hunter played secrets recently. Yeah, we had Subject 9, and that's less about playing secrets and more about drawing like 4 cards out of your deck as Hunter, which is insane.
Oh, actually, thank you. Yeah, Lorinda's just corrected me. I'm not even accounting for the victory that Zim has already picked up this week over Tice, meaning that he is already at 2 match wins alongside Kolento, so he would be able to just outright pass Kolento, not just match him, as I said earlier. Apologies.
Because the difference is, because right now, Zim is 2 and 3.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think anyway, I'm questioning myself, Lorinda. But yeah, this is...
right.
It's gonna get tight, basically, going forward, and Kolento really needs to win this. But also, on the other hand, if Viper wins this match, he is looking quite comfortable, and in Division B, quite comfortable is where you want to sit.
Yeah, the way the division is broken down, if you get to 4 wins, I'm calling that safe. I think it would have to be an absolute miracle to have enough players reach 4 wins and overtake you. I don't think that's possible.
Really huge difference here for Viper is just no Corsair cash, and that's been the case in Warrior, but against Hunter especially, the weapon just kills most of their stuff early on. So it's really good at just putting a stop to them. And also because of Armorsmith, you can recover that health later in the game that you swing the weapon. It's not as if, oh well, Hunter gets the damage through because he's swinging minions and you just kill them with Hunter anyway. There is a recovery plan. Viper now just going for this risky skipper though, to clear off some of this at least.
Inner Rage, Egg and Trade. Yeah. It was a very awkward turn. I was kind of roping alongside Viper there, trying to find some miraculous way to scam out a Blood Boil Brute that turn, but I just don't think it was there.
But I do like the committal into the removal, even if it costs him an Inner Rage, even if you prot the egg, and he had to use a risky skipper, because like I said, the one way I've consistently won this game with Hunter is you just get off to a flying start, they don't quite get a weapon or any crazy early turns, and then you just pile on the damage. And Kolento does have that kind of hand, right? He has Zephyrus, he has the Rot Nest, which is nice on curve just to drop down, honestly, and he does have the brand.
Right. Yeah, the King Crush from Dynatoma Brand is just the #1 nightmare that Warriors see in their dreams. It's just, you can't deal with 8 health. The deck just isn't equipped to do so. There was a brief period of time where the deck was flirting with playing hard copies of Execute, but that didn't last very long. Without a Blood Boil Brute coming down, it's just not happening.
Yeah, I think just the sheer fact that it cost 2 mana and there wasn't always good targets for it meant that execute kind of game went pretty quick. It starts to get rough though. Viper has the board. And that 5-6 is very awkward. Okay, now we're talking.
I was going to say it might just have to get Zephyrus, but now, if you just really believe, Raven.
I do this every day, Sottle. These are the plays I've trained myself to make. Rot Nest, you always hit the Blood Boil. I will say seriously though, if you don't hit the Blood Boil, then the Rot Nest still challenges the Blood Boil Brute. Without a buff.
Yeah. But you get punished by, like, every card Warrior plays. Rampage, Bloodsworn, Mercenary, Battle Rage. He just does it! He just does it! I was so ready for Kolento to just be an actual god in that scenario. That's just the most Kolento thing I would have ever seen.
I mean, if you need some coach on those plays, Kolento, I normally hear those. Just saying. Viper, though, as you said, gets punished by every Warrior card. This might be the biggest punish, as far as I can see. Gets to clear off the Rot Nest, reset Kolento again. If Kolento was desperate last turn, I'll tell you something. He's more than likely going to be desperate this turn, too.
Sure is. And Zephyrus here +4 does not quite get the job done. You'd be looking at Zephyrus +5 to be addressing a board of this size at a minimum.
What did he give him? Oh, I guess you may as well Hero Power at that point. I was thinking about Shadow Word Ruin, but it only kills 1 minion, right? So, may as well Hero Power and take death at that point.
Yep. This is just aggro Warrior from Viper right now. He doesn't really have any longevity the way it's going.
Does he just play Varanus? I think it's the play. You stop
I
them
did
doing
consider
any,
that as soon as
any
it was
AoE
drawn.
turns, you stop
Yeah.
any duplicates, you stop Rampage, and then Zephyrus Arcane Explosion deals with the board. I actually think that
Told
was
you.
Varanus.
Told you it really likes Soul Cleave.
Yeah, it does, yeah. And then you have Zephyrus for the heal. Oh no, you need the Arcane Explosion, right? No Unleash.
You need the AI. Yeah.
Oof.
You're doing too many things, Raven. Live Wire
Kolento
Lance is
has to do
huge.
too many things to
Oh.
win this game at this point.
He does, but Live Wire Lance is huge here for Viper. At least gives him some kind of longevity with the hand that he has, the Horde Pillager that he has. Lackey Generation to get some value into hand if needed, and of course just additional face damage now if he's able to go face on the following turn.
Does Viper make the ultimate read? Leave that up so that the Hero Power gets the Freezing Trap and he gets the Bloodsworn Mercenary back.
You've lasted longer today, Raven.
I know!
Before you said something that was just outrageously ridiculous. You did great.
As soon as I finished my sentence, I was like, hey, that was like the first one today. Sick.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
it was.
okay,
It was.
okay.
Yeah. Hey, you cook it. You're building up the stamina day by
Yeah,
day.
yeah.
Yeah.
A couple of years, I might not say any stupid things. Who knows? Silence. Everything just a little bit too slow here, though, as Bran on curve is something you dream of as Hunter, but not gonna do the job.
CMAT Wind Fury Rush is pretty solid, though. Divine Shield Rush, not too bad either.
Quickly. I wonder.
What if you do just Bran? Is that crazy?
What are you doing with the dinosaur? You need to answer this question
I will
first.
quote a famous caster I know called Sottle.
Yeah.
You know what to do, because the thing here is interesting. I was wondering whether you go face and just Kolento's in such a bad spot, he has to just assume Viper will have to kill the King Crush, and therefore giving Kolento a better CM at the turn after. But I also think that the longer the game goes on, not necessarily the better it gets for Kolento, because Viper's just going to draw more of his deck and be able to grom him.
So I am okay with this option. I think I did like the Seer map more, but I'm okay with this. I don't like the face option because there's the Armorsmith in play. So even if worst case scenario Viper does just like trade down his whole board, smacking into your King Crush, he's just got pretty much all of that damage back anyway. And then that's best case scenario. Worst case scenario is that Viper actually has some playable cards in his hand, right? And then things go significantly worse for you.
In that case, though, should have Kolento just traded into the Armorsmith?
Your flaws are your strength.
No, because he is still scared of damage coming through the other way, right? Like, just Korkrons plus Inner Rage from hand or whatever, Grom plus Inner Rage in the coming turns. He does still want to carve down a little bit of damage himself.
Now, poor old King Crush. To be cleaned up by a mere Kobold.
Mm-hmm.
And now, I am not sure, especially post Zephyrus, the cards exist for Kolento. So he has 4 5s. 11.
Sorry, what were you counting?
The damage that Viper has
Oh, okay.
versus the can Kolento realistically track in for Unleash.
Okay.
And then do something with CM at this turn and realistically survive. And I think that's probably true.
I thought you were counting like some amount of damage that Kolento had this turn. I was like, wow, Raven is a finely tuned Hunter player.
So if he trackens into this, draws this, plays this, and he's going to get no damage, never mind.
Yeah. Zero Damahe.
Yeah. And this could all be tracked back down to Kolento just not running that Grand Slam, right?
Yeah, he would have just had an even worse card stuck in his hand than all of these expensive ones and lost even worse. Yeah.
Cool, though. Desert Spear, kind of unleash the hounds if you don't quite look at it.
So
7,
2, 3, 4,
8, 9.
5 bombs to face for Anamount is lethal here.
He also has Horde Pillager into the Live Wire Lance again to maybe roll for a damage lucky.
Yep.
Which I think is better than getting the Anchor.
Anchor is Anchor.
I mean, you can just re-equip Anchor next turn and swing it, right? I'm just saying,
That's
what
true.
pirate is he going to get now that potentially
fair.
wins in the game? None.
Lead the charge.
Okay, I was about to get annoyed then, because I was like, what if he gets deckhand? As I said that, just from the Sky Raider, as I uttered the words of what pirate can he get that wins in the game? None. I would have been quite angry. Still, though, very strong. And again, this Armorsmith just making Viper progressively more safe as time goes on. Well, never mind. Deathwing, let's go. There is nothing that Kolento can draw that will save him outside of this Alexstrasza. Gotta be done.
Just a crazed Netherwing is pretty popping. He doesn't even necessarily need a Deathwing here.
No, he's dead because of the weapon.
We must stop this corruption.
Sure, yeah, he would be, you're right. Not accounting for the damage to self.
Did get a taunt, which is something, but he didn't get the follow-up needed.
No.
He needed even maybe the Fairy Dragon to be the Twin Tyrant or something, right? To just take something off the board and open up some better trades for the CMAT.
And with the Korkron off top,
I was gonna say.
not even particularly necessary for Viper. He had damage to spare. Plowing through that taunt, is able to ship it all to face, finds the Goblin Lackey even to round it all out at the end. But that's a huge win now for Viper, as I believe the 4-match win. Barring anything ridiculous, I will leave that caveat in there until we've actually done the maths on it. But barring anything ridiculous, I believe 4-match wins should leave you safe in Division B. And now you're thinking more about your playoff spots than you are about relegation. And that does matter in Division B, because it's position 3 and 4 in Division B that are going to potentially have to play in to the playoffs bracket. So still, it's relevant as to whether you're top 2 or 3rd, 4th in Division B. So now Viper can focus more on just how good his playoffs experience is going to be.
Yeah, and I will say as well, Viper, I feel like I've said week on week now that we've seen him play, that even just in this round robin phase, I think he has played very well overall. There was just obviously the slight miss lethal there with the Warlock in the previous game.
He did
But-
just a little bit miss lethal.
He did, but it's a weird deck, still fresh and all that rubbish. But
Yeah.
but I think just overall, from what we've seen of Viper, he's played very consistently. I think his lineups have been pretty strong too. So I think that does just tick the boxes for me. But that's the review of the day. We kick it all the way back for Yala taking a win over Psycho, which put him at the top of Division A. And then we had Pavel take that crazy match and take the loss there to RDU, just about the 3-2 victory there. Zim taking a much-needed win over Tice brings everything a lot closer to Division B. And then Boston taking down Casey 0 in the ultimate match of the day. Viper then just taking the win over Kolento. So pretty crazy day, and just yet another crazy day for Seiya Soto.
Yeah, if you are a fan of crazy nonsense games of Hearthstone, and also if you're a fan of human emotion being taken to its absolute breaking point, then I recommend you check out that RDU versus Pavel series, which I'm sure you can find the VOD of already, thanks to our incredibly efficient YouTube team. Subscribe now, Hearthstone Esports.
I didn't even set you up for that one, but fine. Let's take a look at the Division
I'll still
A.
do another one, don't worry about
Okay,
it.
great.
I'm still good to go, yeah.
Take a look at the divisions overall and how they lie. Look at Yala chilling at the top there on a 5-1 score. But then we do have that kind of three-way fight at the bottom there. Silvername, Huntrace, and Felkane all on a 1-4 score in Division A, which means they are potentially in that danger zone for relegation later in a couple of weeks. But Viper there going to sit at the top himself on a 4-1 score. But everything else now is just even closer, with Casey taking that loss today. And RDU and Boston getting those wins, everything's been shaken up once again.
Yeah, it's still looking very, very tight around that middle portion, but Viper stretching out a lead, as you said, is huge. And it's looking a little bit cut and dry in Division A, as opposed to who is looking at the playoff spots and who is fighting for relegation. Of course, one of those 1-4 players is not going to be dropped into the relegation bracket, but it does look like a straight-up three-way battle between the three of them as to how it's going to pan out over in Division A.
Yep, really close overall, and it's only going to get crazier next week, but we are done for now. But before we go, I believe Sotel has something he wants to tell you.
I do indeed. We gave you a little one, but I've got to give you the works before we leave. We are done for the week. So before you check out America's After Us, please take a moment to hit that subscribe button on the Hearthstone Esports YouTube channel to make sure that you do not miss any of our upcoming content. Things are really going to get intense over the next couple of weeks, so you do not want to miss a single piece of action. And while you are there, make sure you check out all of our original content, including the Curve by Raven, the incredible Mullet Over by Gia, Top 5 Moments with Derek, and of course, Hot Takes with myself and TJ, where I get scammed every single week. If you're a fan of me being annoyed and generally be made to look stupid, then that is the show for you. But we are done here, Raven. It's been a heck of a week up until this point. Feels like all we've done is eat, sleep, Hearthstone, repeat for the last 3 days straight at this point. But pretty happy to be at the end of it. But it's been a heck of a ride.
Yeah, it's been really cool. The meta keeps changing. The format mixes it up a little bit as well. The buffs and nerfs help with that. So it really is fresh every single week here at Grandmasters. But as a reminder, just in case you didn't hear Sotel mention it, TJ and Frodan are going to be coming up with the Americas region to finish off the weekend. But from us, we are done. Thanks a lot for watching. We hope you had some fun, because we definitely did. And we will see you next week.